Hello fellow unicorns, welcome to another video, and this is a very exciting day because today I finally got my first Manga Crash Course Fantasy book copies in the mail. As the author, I get some stuff a little bit earlier so that I can unbox this and show you guys what's inside, and let's get right on it. So, Manga Crash Course Fantasy is my second book. It's a book that goes right after the Manga Crash Course book, and it's important to say that the first book was actually created with all of the basic lessons. So if you guys are a beginner and want to know all of the basics for drawing bodies and shapes and shaping the body and just creating your characters, please make sure you have the first book and to read through it and to practice from it first. Then this is the follow-up book that will explain a lot of the advanced lessons all of you guys have asked me for in the past 2 years. So make sure you have the both book for full enjoyment and full lesson plan. So let's begin with the book. I have designed this book to have a little trick in it. So what I actually decided was to not just have pretty colors and pretty pictures all over the book without any reason. All of my illustrations will actually contain hidden lessons. So every illustration you see in my book will actually have an in-depth explanation on colors, composition, dynamic bodies, poses, and everything you need to know about creating your own dynamic heroic pose for your characters. And of course, I will be adding up some lessons about color theory and how to make a proper background for every of this, like each and every illustration I have. And of course, this was my original intention for the book cover, but I guess that the publishing house wanted this one because it's easier to read and Maya and Mimi are way more visible. But I wanted to actually have this as a spread, so I asked them to put this as a spread because it shows a little bit of a hinted story I wanted to show throughout the book, and that's the story of Mimi, who is a two-tailed fox, and her mother, who is a nine-tailed fox. So I'm hinting maybe in the future how Mimi will look like when she's fully grown. And of course, this is an illustration that also will be explained in depth. As you can see, all of the characters are inspired by Dungeons and Dragons kind of a game and kind of a setting of a role-playing board game that's containing like character sheets and throwing dice and little figurines. So all of my characters even have little stands so that they are like little figurines. And we have Mimi in 3 different shapes. We have Mimi in her basic shape, we have Mimi in her fighting shape, and as a Miko, or a Japanese priestess, and her little staff here actually looks like a color palette, like a palette that you use for painting. Maya's magical staff, since she is a sorcerer of a sort, she uses illusion magic. She has a paintbrush as her staff, and Marco is a brave warrior who actually has inking pen details all across his little armor. So make sure to notice all of the little details and the symbolism. Drawing supplies, I always keep the drawing supplies to a minimum because you don't need any special supplies, at least if you're like an intermediate artist. Maybe if you're starting off as a professional who like earns his living or their living from painting, then you might need some of the more professional art supplies. But for now, I have photographed my personal art supplies, and as you can see, it's nothing special except for the Copic markers. And usually when you ask me about Copic markers, I always tell you that I can get even better results sometimes with watercolors. The only difference is that Copic markers dry faster, and that's it. And there is some very fairly cheap supplies that will last you for a lifetime, so I always recommend the most practical art supplies. And of course we have a lesson that I am intent on keeping in every and each of my books, and that's how to fight fears and how to fix mistakes. So everybody makes mistakes, everybody has fears, everybody's like, oh my god, I can't continue drawing this because I'm afraid I'm gonna mess it up. So even if you do mess it up, there are lessons and tips and tricks on how to fix it. And of course I have a little lesson on how to create your own temporary DIY light table you can use for tracing, because tracing is an important part of fixing mistakes and tracing over your line art, so you can make multiple copies for you to experiment on. And this should not be used to trace official arts, of course. And of course this is a funny scene that's like showing Mimi spilling some magical potions on Marco and him getting little cat ears as a result. And of course I am doing my very own sleepy, dreamy, magical eye design and showing it to you step by step. And of course different types of anime eyes that you usually will see in a lot of anime and manga. So let's skim through the rest of the book. I'm so proud of this book, you guys, because it will contain a lot of useful stuff. So I have included a lot of lessons regarding facial shaping and drawing faces and shading faces from different angles, and of course how to manage with only one base for your face and then get a lot of different art styles from it. So you'll be seeing that as well. Of course I have a lesson on counting heads, but this time different heads can be used for different magical creatures, so it should all be so diverse in body types. Speaking of body types, I have a lot of body positivity in this book because we have so many different body shapes for both girls and boys, how to shape different tricky parts of the body, how to get dynamic poses, how to do foreshortening, how to do proper poses with different weapons, magical hairs, magical accessories, facial hairs, how to do your own insignias, and how to draw medallions and stuff that's magical, and of course how to do saddles for your magical creatures and horses, and of course how to properly draw hands with different weapons. So these are all lessons that will definitely help you with all of the tricky stuff you guys have been asking me. So we have drawing drapes, drawing different types of clothing bases, of course how the historic clothing has influenced fantasy clothing, how to combine them to get all of the coolest fantasy armors, how to draw as professionals do regarding designing fantasy clothes, fantasy worlds, fantasy creatures, how to make inspiration from existing mythological creatures, then how to create creatures from concept art just like the professional concept artists do, how to evolve your creatures, how to create them to be more humanized, how to create them out of shapes, and of course something that all of you guys have been asking for, and that's how to create backgrounds for your characters, how to create space. So I have included an entire lesson on that as well, and of course the in-depth lesson on all of the secrets behind the existing illustration, how to make them more vibrant, how to use different tricks and tips for creating creepy looking illustrations or eerie intense scenes by using colors, and of course my randomizing game that's created a lot of different characters for you guys with full-in explanations on why they look a certain way and how their look is showing their personality and abilities. And it all is very important for the world of fantasy, so I hope you guys find this book very informative and useful. I have created this book for you guys to have as a guidebook and a resource book, so you can always have it on hand, and if you forget something, you just open this book, find something that you forgot, and it's all there for you. So I really hope you guys enjoy this book. All of the pre-order links are down in the description. I hope you guys like it, and I'll be seeing you guys next time. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you would like to learn how to draw manga, please check out my book Manga Crash Course, available in 4 different languages, as well as my latest book Manga Crash Course Fantasy.